Here's a story by Ray Bradbury. I was very upset. I was depressed when he died because it meant no more Ray Bradbury stories. He was so prolific, and he wrote almost all the way up to his death. He was amazing. What I love about Ray Bradbury, this is what I especially love about Ray Bradbury, is a lot of science fiction it doesn't have much emotional content, and Bradbury has a lot of sentiment, but it never crosses the line into sentimentality, which I think it's a fine line to walk, and he does it beautifully. And I love Ray Bradbury. And this is Kaleidoscope by Ray Bradbury. The first concussion cut the rocket up the side with a giant can opener. The men were thrown into space like a dozen wriggling silverfish. They were scattered into a dark sea, and the ship, in a million pieces, went on a meteor swarm seeking a lost sun. Barclay, Barclay, where are you? The sound of voices calling like lost children on a cold night. Wood, Wood, Captain, Hollis, Hollis, this is Stone. Stone, this is Hollis. Where are you? I don't know. How can I? Which way is up? I'm falling. Good God, I'm falling. They fell. They fell as pebbles fall down wells. They were scattered as jackstones are scattered from a gigantic throw. And now, instead of men, there were only voices. All kinds of voices, disembodied and impassioned, in varying degrees of terror and resignation. We're going away from each other. This was true. Hollis, swinging head over heels, knew this was true. He knew it with a vague acceptance. They were parting to go their separate ways, and nothing could bring them back. They were wearing their sealed-tight space suits with the glass tubes over their pale faces. They hadn't had time to lock on the force units. With them, they could be small lifeboats in space, saving themselves, saving others, collecting together, finding each other until they were an island of men with some plan. But without the force units snapped to their shoulders, they were meteors, senseless, each going a separate and irrevocable fate. A period of perhaps 10 minutes elapsed while the first terror died and a metallic calm took its place. Space began to weave its strange voices in and out on a great dark loom, crossing, recrossing, making a final pattern. Stone to Hollis. How long can we talk by phone? Depends on how fast you're going your way and I'm going mine. An hour, I make it. That should do it, said Hollis, abstracted and quiet. What happened? Asked Hollis a minute later. The rocket blew up, that's all. Rockets do blow up. Which way are you going? Looks like I'll hit the moon. It's Earth for me. Back to old Mother Earth at 10,000 miles per hour. I'll burn like a match. Hollis thought of it with a queer abstraction of mind. He seemed to be removed from his body, watching it fall down and down through space, as objective as he had been in regard to the first falling snowflakes of a winter season long gone. The others were silent, thinking of the destiny that had brought them to this falling, and nothing they could do to change it. Even the captain was quiet. There was no command or plan he knew that could put things back together again. Oh, it's a long way down. Oh, it's a long way down. A long, long, long way down, said a voice. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. It's a long way down. Who's that? I don't know. Stimson, I think. Stimson, is that you? It's a long, long way, and I don't like it. Oh, God, I don't like it. Stimson, this is Hollis. Stimson, you hear me? A pause while they fell separate from one another. Stimson. Yes, he replied at last. Stimson, take it easy. We're all in the same fix. I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else. There's a chance we'll be found. I must be, said Stimson. I don't believe this. I don't believe any of this is happening. It's a bad dream, said someone. Shut up, said Hollis. Come and make me, said the voice. It was Applegate. He laughed easily with a similar objectivity. Come and shut me up. Hollis, for the first time, felt the impossibility of his position. Great anger filled him, for he wanted more than anything at this moment to be able to do something to Applegate. He had wanted for many years to do something, and now it was too late. Applegate was only a telephone voice. Falling, falling, falling. Now, as if they had discovered the horror, two of the men began to scream. In nightmare, Hollis saw one of them float by very near, screaming and screaming. Stop it! The man was almost at his fingertips, screaming insanely. He would never stop. He would go on screaming for 1,000,000 miles as long as he was in radio range, disturbing all of them, making it impossible for them to talk to one another. Hollis reached out. It was best this way. He made the extra effort and touched the man. He grasped the man's ankle and pulled himself up along the body until he reached the head. The man screamed and clawed frantically like a drowning swimmer. The screaming filled the universe. One way or the other, thought Hollis, the moon or earth or meteors will kill him, so why not now? He smashed the man's glass mask with his iron fist. The screaming stopped. He pushed off from the body and let it spin away on its own course, falling. Falling, down space. Hollis and the rest of them went in the long, endless dropping and whirling of silence. Hollis, you still there? Hollis did not speak, felt the rush of heat in his face. This is Applegate again. All right, Applegate, let's talk. We haven't anything else to do. The captain cut in. That's enough of that. Got to figure a way out of this. Captain, why don't you shut up, said Applegate. What? You heard me, Captain. Don't pull your rank on me. You're 10,000 miles away by now, and let's not kid ourselves. As Stimson puts it, it's a long way down. See here, Applegate. Can it? This is a mutiny of one. I haven't a damn thing to lose. Your ship was a bad ship, and you were a bad captain, and I hope you break when you hit the moon. I'm ordering you to stop. Go on. Order me again. Applegate smiled across 10,000 miles. The captain was silent. Applegate continued. Where were we, Hollis? Oh, yes, I remember. I hate you, too, but you know that. You've known it for a long time. Hollis clenched his fists helplessly. I want to tell you something, said Applegate. Make you happy. I was the one who blackballed you with the rocket company 5 years ago. A meteor flashed by. Hollis looked down and his left hand was gone. Blood spurted. Suddenly there was no air in his suit. He had enough air in his lungs to move his right hand over and twist a knob at his left elbow, tightening the joint and sealing the leak. It had happened so quickly that he was not surprised. Nothing surprised him anymore. The air in the suit came back to normal in an instant now that the leak was sealed, and the blood that had flowed so swiftly was pressured as he fastened the knob yet tighter until it made a tourniquet. All this took place in a terrible silence on his part, and the other men chatted. That one man, Lesper, went on and on with his talk about his wife on Mars, his wife on Venus, his wife on Jupiter, his money, his wondrous times, his drunkenness, his gambling, his happiness, on and on, while they all fell. Despair reminisced on the past, happy while he fell to his death. It was so very odd. Space, thousands of miles of space, these voices vibrating in the center of it. No one visible at all, only the radio waves quivering and trying to quicken other men into emotion. Are you angry, Hollis? No, and he was not. The abstraction had returned, and he was a thing of dull concrete forever falling nowhere. You wanted to get to the top all your life, Hollis. You always wondered what happened. Huh, I put the black mark on you just before I was tossed out myself. That isn't important, said Hollis. And it was not. It was gone. When life is over, it's like a flicker of bright film, an instant on the screen, all of its prejudices and passions condensed and illumined for an instant on space, before you could cry out, there was a happy day, there a bad one, there an evil face, there a good one. The film burned to a cinder, the screen went dark. From his outer edge of his life, looking back, there was only one remorse. That was only that he wished to go on living. Did all dying people feel that way, as if they had never lived? Did life seem that short, indeed, over and done, before you took a breath? Did it seem this abrupt and impossible to everyone, or only to himself, here, now, with a few hours left to him for thought and deliberation? One of the other men, Lesper, was talking. Well, I had me a good time. I had a wife on Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. Each of them had money, treated me swell. I got drunk, and once I gambled away $20,000. But you're here now, thought Hollis. I didn't have any of those things when I was living. I was jealous of you, Lesper. When I had another day ahead of me, I envied you, your women, and your good times. Women frightened me when I went into space, always wanting them, and jealous of you for having them, and money, and as much happiness as you could have in your own wild way. But now, falling here, with everything over, I'm not jealous of you anymore, because it's over for you as it is for me. Right now it's like it never was. Hollis craned his face forward and shouted into the telephone. It's all over, L'Espère. Silence. It's just as if it never was, L'Espère. Who's that? L'Espère's faltering voice. This is Hollis. He was being mean. He felt the meanness, the senseless meanness of dying. Applegate had hurt him. Now he wanted to hurt another. Applegate and space had both wounded him. You're out here, L'Espère. It's all over. It's just as if it never happened, isn't it? No. When anything's over, it's just like it never happened. Where's your life any better than mine now? Now is what counts. Is it any better? Is it? Yes, it's better. How? Because I got my thoughts. I remember, cried L'Espère, far away, indignant, holding his memories in his chest with both hands. And he was right. With a feeling of cold water rushing through his head and body, Hollis knew he was right. There were differences between memories and dreams. He had only dreams of things he'd wanted to do, while L'Espère had memories of things done and accomplished. This knowledge began to pull Hollis apart with slow, quivering precision. What good does it do you? He cried to L'Espère. Now, when the thing's over, it's not good any more. You're no better off than I. I'm resting easy, said L'Espère. I've had my turn. I'm not getting mean at the end like you. Mean? Hollis turned the word on his tongue. He had never been mean, as long as he could remember, in his life. He'd never dared to be mean. He must have saved it all of these years for such a time as this. Mean. He rolled the word onto the back of his mind. He felt tears start into his eyes and roll down his face. Someone must have heard his gasping voice. Take it easy, Hollis. It was, of course, ridiculous. Only a minute before, he'd been giving advice to others, to Stimson. He felt a braveness which he had thought to be the genuine thing, but now he knew it had been nothing but shock and the objectivity possible in shock. Now he was trying to pack a lifetime of suppressed emotion into an interval of minutes. I know how you feel, Hollis, said L'Espère, now 20,000 miles away, his voice fading. I don't take it personally. But aren't we equal, he wondered, L'Espère and I? Here, now. If the thing's over, it's done. What good is it? You die anyway. But he knew he was rationalizing. It was like trying to tell the difference between a live man and a corpse. There was a spark in one and not in the other, an aura, a mysterious element. So it was with L'Espère and himself. L'Espère had lived a good full life. It made him a different man now, and he, Hollis, had been as good as dead for many years. They came to death by separate paths. In all likelihood, if there were kinds of death, their kind would be as different as night from day. The quality of death, like that of life, must be of an infinite variety. One has already died once, then what was there to look for in dying for good and all, as he was now? It was a second later that he discovered his right foot was cut sheer away. Almost made him laugh. The air was gone from his suit again. He bent quickly, and there was blood. The meteor had taken flesh and suit away at the ankle. Oh, death in space was most humorous. It cut you away, piece by piece, like a black and invisible butcher. He tightened the valve at the knee, his head whirling into pain, fighting to remain aware. With the valve tightened, the blood retained, the air kept, he straightened up and went on falling. Falling. That was all there was left to do. Hollis? Hollis nodded sleepily, tired of waiting for death. This is Applegate again, said a voice. Yes. I've had time to think. I listen to you. This isn't good. Makes us bad. This is a bad way to die. Brings all the bile out. You listening, Hollis? Yes. I lied. A minute ago, I lied. I didn't blackball you. I don't know why I said that. Guess I wanted to hurt you. You seem the one to hurt. We've always fought. Guess I'm getting old fast and repenting fast. I guess listening to you be mean made me ashamed. Whatever the reason, I want you to know I was an idiot too. There's not an ounce of truth in what I said. To hell with you. Hollis felt his heart begin to work again. It seemed as if it hadn't worked for 5 minutes, but now all his limbs began to take color and warmth. The shock was over. The successive shocks of anger and terror and loneliness were passing. He felt like a man emerging from a cold shower in the morning, ready for breakfast and a new day. Thanks, Applegate. Don't mention it. Up your nose, you bastard. Hey, said Stone. What? Hollis called across space, for Stone, of all of them, was a good friend. I got myself into a meteor swarm, some little asteroids. Meteors? I think it's the Myrmidon cluster that goes out past Mars and in toward Earth once every 5 years. I'm right in the middle. It's like a big kaleidoscope. Got all kinds of colors and shapes and sizes. God, it's beautiful, all that metal. Silence. I'm going with them, said Stone. They're taking me off with them. I'll be damned. He laughed. Hollis looked to see, but saw nothing. Only the great diamonds and sapphires and emerald mists and velvet inks of space, with God's voice mingling among the crystal fires. There was a kind of wonder and imagination in the thought of Stone, going off in the meteor swarm, out past Mars for years, coming in toward Earth every 5 years, passing in and out of the planet's ken for the next million centuries. Stone and the Myrmidon cluster, eternal and upending, shifting and shaping like the kaleidoscope colors when you were a kid, held a long tube to the sun and gave it a twirl. So long, Hollis. Stone's voice very faint now. So long. Good luck, shouted Hollis across 30,000 miles. Don't be funny, said Stone, and was gone. Stars closed in. Now all the voices were fading, each on its own trajectory, some to Mars, others into farther space. And Hollis himself, he looked down. He, of all the others, was going back to Earth alone. So long. Take it easy. So long, Hollis. That was Applegate. The many goodbyes, the short farewells. And now the great loose brain was disintegrating. The components of the brain, which had worked so beautifully and efficiently in the skull case of the rocket ship firing through space, were dying one by one. The meaning of their life together was falling apart. As the body dies when the brain ceases functioning, so the spirit of the ship and their long time together, what they meant to one another, was dying. Applegate was now no more than a finger blown through the parent body, no longer to be despised and worked against. The brain was exploded, and the senseless, useless fragments of it were far scattered. The voices faded. Now all of space was silent. Hollis was alone, falling. They were all alone. The voices had died like echoes of the word of God, spoken and vibrating in the starred deep. There were the captain to the moon. There Stone with the meteor swarm. There Stimson. There Applegate toward Pluto. There Smith and Turner and Underwood and all the rest, the shards of the kaleidoscope that had formed a thinking pattern for so long, hurled apart. And I, thought Hollis, what can I do? Is there anything I can do now to make up for the terrible and empty life? If only I could do one good thing to make up for the meanness I collected all these years and didn't even know was in me. There's no one here but myself. How can you do good all alone? You can't. Tomorrow night I'll hit Earth's atmosphere. I'll burn, he thought, be scattered in ashes all over the continental lands. I'll be put to use. Just a little bit, but ashes are ashes and they'll add to the land. He fell swiftly, like a bullet, like a pebble, like an iron weight, objective all the time now, not sad or happy or anything, only wishing he could do a good thing now that everything was gone, good thing for just himself to know about. When I hit the atmosphere, I'll burn like a meteor. I wonder, he said, if anyone will see me. The small boy on the country road looked up and screamed, "Look, Mom, look! A falling star!" The blazing white star fell down the sky of dusk in Illinois. "Make a wish," said his mother. "Make a wish." And the next Ray Bradbury story is The Foghorn. Out there in the cold water, far from land, we waited every night for the coming of the fog, and it came. We oiled the brass machinery, lit the fog light up in the stone tower. Feeling like two birds in the gray sky, McDunn and I set light touching out, red, then white, then red again, to eye the lonely ships. And if they did not see our light, then there was always our voice, the great deep cry of our foghorn, shuddering through the rags of mist to startle the gulls away like decks of scattered cards, make the waves turn high and foam. It's a lonely life, but you're used to it by now, aren't you? Asked McDunn. Yes, I said. You're a good talker, thank the Lord. Well, it's your turn on land tomorrow, he said, smiling, to dance the ladies and drink gin. What do you think, McDunn, when I leave you out here alone? On the mysteries of the sea. McDunn lit his pipe. It was 7:15 of a cold November evening. the heat on, the light switching its tail in 200 directions, the foghorn bumbling in the high throat of the tower. There wasn't a town for 100 miles down the coast, just a road which came lonely through the dead country to the sea, with few cars on it, a stretch of 2 miles of cold water out to our rock, and rare few ships. The mysteries of the sea, said McDunn thoughtfully. You know, the ocean's the biggest damn snowflake ever. It rolls and swells 1,000 shapes and colors, no two alike. Strange. One night, years ago, I was here alone. All of the fish of the sea surfaced out there. Something made them swim in and lie in the bay, sort of trembling and staring up at the tower light going red, white across them so I could see their funny eyes. I turned cold. They were like a big peacock's tail moving out there until midnight. Then, without so much as a sound, they slipped away. The millions of them was gone. I kind of think maybe in some sort of way they came all those miles to worship. Strange. But think how the tower must look to them, standing 70 feet above the water, the god light flashing out from it, and the tower declaring itself with a monster voice. They never came back, those fish. Don't you think for a while they thought they were in the presence? I shivered. I looked out at the long gray lawn of the sea stretching away into nothing and nowhere. Oh, the sea is full. McDunn puffed his pipe nervously, blinking. He'd been nervous all day, hadn't said why. For all our engines and so-called submarines, it'd be 10,000 centuries before we set foot on the real bottom of the sunken land, and the fairy kingdoms there, and no real terror. Think of it. It's still the year 300,000 before Christ down under there. Oh, we've paraded around with trumpets, lopping off each other's countries and heads. They have been living beneath a sea 12 miles deep and cold in a time as old as the beard of a comet. Yeah, it's an old world. Come on. I got something special I've been saving up to tell you. We ascended the 80 steps, talking and taking our time. At the top, McDunn switched off the room lights so there'd be no reflection in the plate glass. The great eye of the light was humming, turning easily in its oiled socket. The foghorn was blowing steadily, once every 15 seconds. Sounds like an animal, don't it? McDunn nodded to himself. A big, lonely animal crying in the night. Sitting here on the edge of 10 billion years, calling out to the deeps, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And the deeps do answer. Yes, they do. You've been here now for 3 months, Johnny, so I'd better prepare you. About this time of year, he said, studying the murk and fog, something comes to visit the lighthouse. Swarms of fish, like you said? No, this is something else. I put off telling you because you might think I'm daft. Tonight's the latest I can put it off. If my calendar's marked right from last year, tonight's the night it comes. I won't go into detail. You'll have to see it yourself. Just sit down there. If you want, tomorrow you can pack your duffel, take the motorboat into land and get your car parked there at the dinghy pier on the Cape, drive on back to some little inland town, keep your lights burning nights. I won't question or blame you. It's happened 3 years now. This is the only time anyone's been here with me to verify it. You wait and watch. Half an hour passed with only a few whispers between us. When we grew tired waiting, McDunn began describing some of his ideas to me. He had some theories about the foghorn itself. One day, many years ago, a man walked along and stood in the sound of the ocean on a cold, sunless shore and said, we need a voice to call across the water, to warn ships. I'll make one. I'll make a voice like all of time and all of the fog that ever was. I'll make a voice that's like an empty bed beside you all night long, like an empty house when you open the door, like trees in autumn with no leaves. Sound like the birds flying south, crying. Sound like November wind and the sea on the hard, cold shore. I'll make a sound that's so alone that no one can miss it. Whoever hears it will weep in their souls, and hearts will seem warmer. Being inside will seem better to all who hear it in the distant towns. I'll make me a sound and an apparatus. They'll call it a foghorn. Whoever hears it will know the sadness of eternity and the briefness of life. The foghorn blew. I made up that story, said McDunn, to try to explain why this thing keeps coming back to the lighthouse every year. The foghorn calls it, I think, and it comes. But I said, shh, said McDunn. There. He nodded out to the deeps. Something was swimming toward the lighthouse tower. It was a cold night, as I've said. The high tower was cold. the light coming and going, the foghorn calling and calling through the reveling mist. You couldn't see far, you couldn't see plain. There was the deep sea moving on its way about the night earth, flat and quiet, color of gray mud. Here were the two of us alone in the high tower. There, far out at first, was a ripple, followed by a wave, a rising, a bubble, a bit of froth. And then, from the surface of the cold sea came a head, a large head, dark-colored, with immense eyes, and then a neck, and then, not a body, more neck, and more. The head rose a full 40 feet above the water on a slender and beautiful dark neck. Only then did the body, like a little island of black coral and shells and crayfish, drip up from the subterranean. There was a flicker of tail. In all, from head to tip of tail, I estimated the monster at 90 or 100 feet. I don't know what I said. I said something. "Steady, boy, steady," whispered McDunn. "It's impossible," I said. "No, Johnny, we're impossible. It's like it always was 10 million years ago. It hasn't changed. It's us and the land that have changed, become impossible. Us." It swam slowly and with a great dark majesty out in the icy waters far away. The fog came and went about it, momentarily erasing its shape. One of the monster eyes caught and held and flashed back our immense light, red, white, like a disc held high and sending a message in primeval code. It was as silent as the fog through which it swam. "It's a dinosaur of some sort." I crouched down, holding to the stair rail. "Yes, one of the tribe." "But they died out." "No, only hid away in the deeps. Deep, deep down in the deepest deeps. Isn't that a word now, Johnny? A real word? It says so much. The deeps. There's all the coldness and darkness and deepness in the world in a word like that. What do we do? Do? We got a job we can't leave. Besides, we're safer here than in any boat trying to get to land. That thing's as big as a destroyer and almost as swift. But here, why does it come here?" The next moment I had my answer. The foghorn blew, and the monster answered. A cry came across a million years of water and mist, a cry so anguished and alone that it shuddered in my head and my body. The monster cried out at the tower. The foghorn blew. The monster roared again. The foghorn blew. The monster opened its great toothed mouth, and the sound that came from it was the sound of the foghorn itself, lonely and vast and far away. The sound of isolation, a viewless sea, a cold night, apartness. That was the sound. "Now," whispered McDunn, "do you know why it comes here?" I nodded. "All year long, Johnny. That poor monster lying there far out, 1,000 miles at sea, 20 miles deep maybe, biding its time. Perhaps it's 1,000,000 years old, this one creature. Think of it, waiting 1,000,000 years. Could you wait that long? Maybe it's the last of its kind. I sort of think that's true. Anyway, here come men on land and build this lighthouse 5 years ago, set up their foghorn and sound it, out toward the place where you bury yourself in sleep and see memories of a world where there were thousands like yourself. But now you're alone, all alone in a world not made for you, a world where you have to hide. The sound of the foghorn comes and goes, and you stir from the muddy bottom of the deeps. Your eyes open like the lens of a 2-foot camera, and you move slow. You have the ocean sea on your shoulders, heavy. But that foghorn comes through 1,000 miles of water, faint and familiar, and the furnace in your belly stokes up, and you begin to rise, slow. You feed yourself on great slakes of cod and minnow, on rivers of jellyfish. You rise slow through the autumn months, through September, when the fogs start, through October, with more fog and the horn still calling you, and then late in November, after pressurizing yourself day by day, a few feet higher every hour, you're near the surface and still alive. You've got to go slow. If you surfaced all at once, you'd explode. So it takes you all of 3 months to surface, and a number of days to swim through the cold waters to the lighthouse. And there you are, out there in the night, Johnny, the biggest damn monster in creation. And here's the lighthouse calling to you, the long neck like your neck, sticking way up out of the water, and a body like your body. Most important of all, a voice like your voice. Do you understand now, Johnny? Do you understand? The foghorn blew. The monster answered. I saw it all. I knew it all. The million years of waiting alone for someone to come back who never came back. A million years of isolation at the bottom of the sea. The insanity of time there, where the skies cleared of reptile birds, the swamps dried on the continental lands, the sloths and saber-tooths had their day and sank into tar pits, and men ran like white ants upon the hills. The foghorn blew. Last year, said McDunn, that creature swam round and round and round and round all night. Not coming too near. Puzzled, I'd say. Afraid, maybe. And a bit angry after coming all this way. The next day, unexpectedly, the fog lifted. The sun came out fresh. The sky was blue as a painting. And the monster swam off away from the heat and the silence and didn't come back. I suppose it's been brooding on it for a year now, thinking it over every which way. The monster was only 100 yards off now, and the foghorn crying at each other. As the lights hit them, the monster's eyes were fire and ice. Fire and ice. That's life for you, said McDunn. Someone always waiting for someone who never comes home. Always someone loving something more than that thing loves them. After a while, you want to destroy whatever that thing is, so it can't hurt you no more. The monster was rushing at the lighthouse. The foghorn blew. Let's see what happens, said McDunn. He switched the foghorn off. The ensuing minutes of silence were so intense we could hear our hearts pounding in the glassed area of the tower, could hear the slow greased turn of the light. The monster stopped and froze. Its great lantern eyes blinked. Its mouth gaped, gave a sort of rumble like a volcano. It twitched its head this way and that, as if to seek the sounds now dwindled off into the fog. It peered at the lighthouse. It rumbled again. His eyes caught fire. It reared up, thrashed the water, rushed at the tower, its eyes filled with angry torment. McDunn, I cried, switch on the horn! McDunn fumbled with a switch. Even as he flicked it on, the monster was rearing up. I had a glimpse of its giant paws, fish skin glittering in webs between the finger-like projections clawing at the tower. A huge eye on the right side of its anguished head glittered before me like a cauldron into which I might drop screaming. The tower shook. The foghorn cried. The monster cried. It seized the tower and gnashed at the glass, which shattered in upon us. McDunn seized my arm. Downstairs. The tower rocked, trembled, and started to give. The foghorn and the monster roared. We stumbled and half fell down the stairs. Quick! We reached the bottom as the tower buckled down toward us. We ducked under the stairs in a small stone cellar. There were 1,000 concussions as the rocks rained down, and the foghorn stopped abruptly. The monster crashed upon the tower. The tower fell. We knelt together, McDunn and I, holding tight while our world exploded. Then it was over. There was nothing but darkness and the wash of the sea on the raw stones. That and the other sound. Listen, said McDunn. Listen. We waited a moment. Then I began to hear it. First a great vacuum sucking of air, then the lament, the bewilderment, the loneliness of the great monster folded over and upon us, above us, so that the sickening reek of its body filled the air, stone's thickness away from our cellar. The monster gasped and cried. The tower was gone. The light was gone. The thing that had called it to it across a million years was gone. And the monster was opening its mouth and sending out great sounds, the sounds of a foghorn again and again, and ships far at sea, not finding the light, not seeing anything, but passing and hearing late that night must have thought, there it is, the lonely sound, the lonesome bay horn. All's well. We've rounded the cape. And so it went for the rest of that night. The sun was hot and yellow the next afternoon when the rescuers came out to dig us from our stone undercellar. It fell apart is all, said McDunn gravely. We had a few bad knocks from the waves and it just crumbled. He pinched my arm. There was nothing to see. The ocean was calm, the sky blue. The only thing was a great algaic stink from the green matter that covered the fallen tower stones and the sheer rocks. Flies buzzed about. The ocean washed empty on the shore. Next year they built a new lighthouse. By that time I had a job in the little town and a wife and a good small warm house that glowed yellow on autumn nights, doors locked, chimney puffing smoke. As for McDunn, he was master of the new lighthouse, built to his own specifications, out of steel-reinforced concrete. Just in case, he said. The new lighthouse was ready in November. I drove down alone one evening late and parked in my car and looked across the gray waters and listened to the new horn sounding once, twice, 3, 4 times a minute far out there by itself. The monster, it never came back. It's gone away, said MacDunn. It's gone back to the deeps. It's learned you can't love anything too much in this world. It's gone into the deepest deeps to wait another 1,000,000 years. Ah, the poor thing, waiting out there and waiting out there while man comes and goes on this pitiful little planet, waiting and waiting. I sat in my car listening. I couldn't see the lighthouse or the light stand out in Lonesome Bay. I could only hear the horn. The horn. The horn. Sounded like the monster calling. I sat there, wishing there was something I could say.